and welcome to Just Onside. It's been about 3 weeks. We've had a bit of a hiatus. OS has been extremely busy. He was ready to shoot last week, but I was otherwise engaged. It was just, I couldn't be bothered. No, not quite. But it's great to be back. There's a lot that's happened over the last 3 weeks, which we'll try and cover as quickly as we possibly can do. But first, a lot of people have been asking me, OS, all three of our viewers, how you are. So how are you?
It's very nice of you, Ayub. No, I'm doing well, thank you. It's been a bit manic recently, just with work and what have you. So we've not been able to shoot, have we? And the time difference doesn't help as well. But I mean, hopefully things will settle down because we enjoy this part of Friday nights, Monday mornings, or Monday nights, I should say. So yeah, no, I've been doing well, thank you. Busy with a few, I was going to say immigration, but also kind of paperwork and various things that you have to do when you're living in another country. But no, things are going well, thankfully. Friday night, so no complaints. Looking forward to the weekend. How about yourself?
All good. It's been very busy at work, so quite tired, and I'm looking forward to the weekend. But as you can imagine, I'm very tense. There's a really important game of football this evening. And when we're shooting now, it's just after 5 o'clock on a Friday. There's a very, very important game at 8 o'clock UK time. Leeds versus Leicester.
How you feeling? You're in good form.
I'm decent form. 8 wins on the bounce, not too bad. But this is
8 wins on the bounce.
This is the litmus test. This is the litmus test. And I'd go as far as saying if we get a positive result, by that I mean 3 points, I'll be confident in saying we'll get promoted. This really is a game where it's not just about ability, it's about and that. So this is where Daniel Fogg earns his crust. We've got a really good side. So on the whole, we're going to beat most sides in the championship. But this is a real difficult tie. It's at home. We've beaten them away. And it's a 6-pointer with 9 points at the moment between us and Leicester. Obviously, if we win, it really does narrow the gap. But if we lose, that's 12 points, and that's Leicester signed, sealed, and delivered. They're in the Premier League. So very nervous. If you ask me now, would I take a draw? Absolutely, because it just sort of keeps Leicester within distance. And obviously a loss would be quite a psychological blow. So very nervous. As soon as this show is finished, I'll be just concentrating on the game. But apart from that, all good. But right, let's crack on with the show. But before we do that, let me ask the viewers to do the usual good stuff. Smash a like, share, all of the good stuff. Please, before you start watching this, smash a like. It would help the channel enormously. All right, okay, Wes. It's been about sort of 2 or 3 weeks. A lot's happened. I think I'm sure we did a preview of the Arsenal-Liverpool game. But we didn't do a post-match review. So maybe you can sort of talk about that. But also, what do you feel now in terms of 1, 2, 3? Who do you think is going to be first? Who do you think is going to be second? Who do you think is going to be third? Because you're Arsenal. They're absolutely in the league. They're on fire. So go on. There's a lot to cram in. So I'll let you start where you want to start.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been the title race has it's definitely heated up, hasn't it, Ayub? I mean, the top 3 are absolutely flying. City haven't lost, I think, in the best part of 10 league games. They have hit their stride, as they say. I think in terms of defeats between the 3, it's only Liverpool's defeat away to Arsenal, isn't it? So they're all 3 of them are flying. I mean, let's just take them in order, if that's okay. I mean, firstly, Liverpool's still top of the table. Obviously, had a difficult start to the game the other day against Luton. I think even with the side that they had put out, I don't think many were expecting for that result to stick. Liverpool, give them huge credit. Second half, poured it on in front of the Kop and got the win, as you suspected they would, even though they were trailing at half time. I think Liverpool will be right there for the title right up until the very end. Yes, they're going through a difficult period right now with injuries, a lot of injuries. We'll talk about the Carabao Cup final this weekend, but they will be missing some critical players, which should at least level the playing field somewhat. I mean, Chelsea have played well anyway, and in a one-off game, you never know, do you? But what I mean is, if Liverpool have their best team out, they would be favourites for the game, wouldn't they? So I think given the current injury crisis that they have, and it is a little bit of a crisis when you look at some of the players missing. I think they'll be hoping to get some of those superstars and player personnel back sooner rather than later. They can't win the league, not with this current team going for the next 13, 14 games. So, look, I think Liverpool will be right there. There's something about them. Obviously, we know what the narrative is with the manager leaving at the end of the season. I think you and I, you more than me, but definitely I felt Liverpool will be there all the way till the very start, from the start till the end, and that's what's proven to be the case. It's a very different style, isn't it, with Liverpool this year? It's still back to that kind of. I mean, they've got plenty of goals, plenty of goals in them, as you saw the other night as well. But even with a second fiddle team, so to speak, they've still put 4 past foot. Luton could have been many more, but it's a team that's a little different to what they've had previously. But I think because of that, many people I think are comparing Liverpool to the Liverpool of old and hence thinking, oh, it's not quite what Liverpool had. Whereas I just think they're different teams. They're just different teams. There's many ways to win a Premier League title, and I think Liverpool may well prove that out. City definitely have hit their stride, haven't they? I mean, it took a little while to beat Brentford the other day. I think it was a goal Haaland had to settle it in the 71st minute or what have you. So nerves were starting to creep in a little bit. That would have been a huge couple of points drop, especially when you think about the fact that they drew at home to Chelsea, a game that they would have fancied themselves to win, and maybe on another day would have won. I thought Chelsea played well first half, but I think for the most part City did pour it on a little bit in the second half. So I think if they drop points back-to-back games, definitely would have given a huge deal of confidence. And you mentioned Arsenal. Obviously, I support Arsenal. I think the interesting thing about Arsenal is 2024, they've been on fire, haven't they? I mean, and I always go off the eye test at you. If you remember early on, one of my biggest observations / criticisms of them was that they were playing very cautious football, very kind of looking not to lose the game, being very passive, controlling the game. Rice, Gabriel, Saliba, very dominant in terms of just controlling the game, seeing if the opportunity arises to then take advantage. Whereas I thought in the last 4 or 5 league games, they've just clicked where they're just attacking a lot more, being a lot more, let's say, kind of opportunistic with their play and taking some risks, and they've been absolutely dominant, haven't they? I mean, even when you think about the goal that they conceded the other day against Porto, I mean, they were on the cusp of another clean sheet, weren't they? And it was a little bit of a bad situation at the very last kick of the game, and a great finish from the player. But look, the point is Arsenal are defending incredibly well and attacking for the most part in the league with a great deal of verve and attacking vigor. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, putting plenty past West Ham, putting plenty past Burnley, home to Palace before then as well. So, and then 3 at home to Liverpool. They are scoring plenty of goals. Everyone's chipping in. Some key players in form. Saka, Odegaard, to just name a few. It'll be interesting, I think, just very quickly before you go, and then we'll kick it around. I think the home to Newcastle game is an interesting one. Last year, they if you remember, at home, they didn't quite. I think it was 0-0. There's a little bit of needle between the teams, I would say. A few issues, obviously, this year at away to St James's, where Arsenal felt aggrieved at the goal as well. But Newcastle for Arsenal have been a little bit of a tough nut to crack. So I think it's a huge game for Arsenal on the back of a little bit of disappointment in midweek. But I think if Arsenal play like they have been in the league, full of confidence, moving the ball. They've had a settled team for the last 3-4 games that you may have noticed. They are missing some key personnel right now. Zinchenko, Jesus, Tomiyasu, just to name a few. So they just, I think, feeling the strain a little bit. You don't want to continuously just play with the same 11 every 4 days. So I think he wants some of those critical players back. If they beat Newcastle at home, Ayub, they'll continue to feel super confident that they're starting to navigate some of those key fixtures, getting them out of the way, 3 points in the bag. But margin for error is tight, isn't it? There's not much between these 3 teams right now, performances wise, and also in terms of credibility. It's a high bar that these 3 teams are setting right now, and I think even a draw, a defeat right now for any 3 of them is going to be critical. Final word. I mean, some of those head-to-heads loom large, but I still would be a little. I wouldn't look that far ahead. I think in the league right now, it's just about taking care of business. And both teams, I would say City and Arsenal, have got difficult league fixtures to navigate this weekend. They'll both be hoping, whilst Liverpool deal with the Carabao Cup finally, that they can both continue to keep the pressure up on arguably the best team in the league right now, which is Liverpool.
Well, you say Liverpool are the best team in the league. Positionally, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're top of the league after this number of games, you have to sort of view them as the best team in the league. My worry is, and I am worried now. I think since the defeat from Arsenal, which was comprehensive. I mean, that was really it's when you have those heads to heads, you want to stand toe to toe with your opponent, and I think they were beaten up bad. They were beaten up bad, and that was almost a catalyst for the Arsenal because then they've gone into a different stratosphere thereafter. It's always, I think, squads are important for a reason because come towards the end of the season when you start having injuries, you need the squad. This is where my concern is also for Liverpool because I think I won't say it's threadbare, but certainly they are a team that you can't afford to lose key players. And Jota injured. I mean, I've been absolutely. I mean, I was always a fan of Jota, but I never quite understood sort of how good he was until this season. His miss. I mean, there is no like for Liverpool for Jota. I think losing him for a sizable part of the season now is going to be catastrophic. They've got other injuries as well. Alisson as well. These are players that you can't afford not to have. City have got enough deputies. Arsenal, I think, have got a much better squad than Liverpool. I think Liverpool really are in a position where they can't afford to have the injuries, and that's where I worry. Even though they're top, I mean, the game against Luton, in the end, it was quite comfortable. But up until 50 minutes, I mean, it was I was actually worried. I mean, people sort of said, no, don't worry, they've got enough quality, and maybe they had obviously enough quality against the likes of Luton. A better team, it would have been a different story, and that's my concern. That really is my concern. I think at the moment, the team that I think should be confident is Man City, purely because they've just got the depth. Arsenal are playing the best football. But I think in just terms of depth, it's Man City. I think the game. I think when they're playing each other, Man City and Arsenal,
It's still a few games though.
right? That probably will be pivotal. In a sense, I'm almost thinking now that the game between those two will define who wins the league. It pains me to say, but I think in terms of positions, it's going to be. I've got a feeling Man City. It's going to be the Arsenal and then Liverpool third. The way things are panning out at the moment.
But don't you think, are you at this stage of the season when you're in mid-Feb? I mean, the squad is critical, perhaps, when you think about from the start of the season, like because you know that you're gonna have to navigate 38 league games. You're having to navigate European campaigns. Yes, Liverpool are in the Europa League this year, but what I mean is with the domestic competitions and what have you, you know you're going to play a lot of games. I feel like the squad depth argument is critical at the start of the season. I feel like if you're top of the table as Liverpool are in the middle of Feb or at the end of Feb as they are, the squad aspect becomes less significant, right? You've got less games to go forward. You are in the most optimal position. Would Liverpool have accepted this position at the start of the season? Yeah, but 100%. I think it's at this stage, for me, honestly, I don't think so much it's about squad. Critical injuries, yes, but that's a different argument. That's a more nuanced point than squad depth. This idea of squad depth is important. I think always at the start of the season, you've got 50, 55 games, 60 games to navigate. I think when you're at the end of February and you're right there at the final knockings and you're right there. I mean, look, I'm not going to make too much of Arsenal's issues, but think about some of the players who've not played any meaningful part of the season so far. Thomas Partey, hardly played a game. Julian Timber, first game of the season. They buy him to play as a auxiliary left back, right back, maybe defensive midfielder. Unfortunately, does his cruciates in the very first game of the season. Zinchenko's missed time. Tomiyasu comes back from international duty, still hasn't played, missed some games. What I mean is, there have been many players for Arsenal as well who've played zero part or very little part. What I'm saying is, right now, all three teams would be, if you ask all three teams, are you happy with where you're at? I think all three teams would be say, fair enough. You know what, we'd have taken this at the start of the season. Yes, City would probably say, no, we'd prefer to be 12 points ahead because we believe in ourselves that much. I just think the squad aspect, for me, is there's just been a little too much made out of it. If Liverpool's injuries continue as they are right now, then yes, I can't see them winning the Premier League title without critical players. But having said that, I think if they can get Alisson back, they can get Salah back, Nunes back, I don't see why they can't. That's an incredibly talented team. They are top of the Premier League table. There's only a certain amount of games. We're at the 2/3 mark. I think a little too much is made of this squad aspect, if you're asking me.
I just sort of feel that in terms of squad depth, Liverpool perhaps have the weakest of the three. Not to say that obviously it's weak, but in comparison to Man City and Arsenal, I mean, Man City is. I mean, there was I think somebody. I looked at a picture of their bench. I don't know which game it was, but it just it it would frighten the life out of an opposition to think, well, hang on, that's what they've got on the bench. Whereas Liverpool at the moment, there's a reliance. I mean, and as I said, it's key players. I think the front line is superb, but what Jota brings is something completely different. I think Diaz and Nunes are quite spontaneous, and it very much is they're instinctive players. What Jota brings is a calmness, an intelligence, and he's, I think, been pivotal in many of the games. So I'm just concerned. I just sort of think at the moment that Liverpool perhaps will be panicking a little bit more than the other two. So this moment in time, I'm a little concerned. I just sort of think maybe that it might just sort of hurt them. But just on the game, and we didn't do a post-match reaction on the game. But what were your thoughts on the Arsenal versus Liverpool game? Because obviously it was hyped up as one of the big games of the season, which it rightly was. And I personally thought Arsenal were outstanding. I think they just wanted it much more, and they were at it. They were at it. It just seemed to be just much more energetic, much more. I mean, even in terms of sort of skill set, they just sort of seemed a better team on that day. What were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I just thought Arsenal wanted it a lot more. I think you seem to forget, but we did discuss it after the game. But I'm more than happy to cover it again. I mean, yeah, look, that was. I think you mentioned it
Oh,
earlier.
did we cover it? Did we cover it?
We did cover it, but I'm going to summarize it anyway very quickly. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, about how that was the catalyst, and to somewhat, I think, from a confidence perspective, what we've seen afterwards. You're absolutely right, aren't you? Because I think Arsenal have gone from strength to strength. I mean, look, yeah, you're right. Ultimately, on the game itself, I thought Arsenal were the better team that day. I don't think there was a huge amount between them, but I thought Arsenal were pressing, and sometimes you get the luck of the bounce, let's say, and what have you. And I think Arsenal did. What they've done there afterwards, Ayub, is played an incredible brand of football. Genuinely, watched all of the games, the stuff that they played at West Ham, the stuff they played at Burnley. Yes, games that you might think, you know what, look, Arsenal should be beating those teams, but you've got to watch the games to understand the way they're knocking the ball about, the way they've got control in these games. They're hardly giving a chance away in these games. If you look at some of the statistics, even against Porto, other than that first chance, which the guy should have scored, let's be fair, they have got incredible control in some of these games. Look, they'll need more of that. This league's incredibly tight. But I just think right now, if they keep the confidence, Odegaard's playing incredibly well right now. I genuinely think he's making a late run, in my humble opinion, for Player of the Year. And I've watched him very closely this year. I think if Arsenal have a good finish to the season, I think he'll be right up there. But there's some critical players for them right now. Saka's in decent nick. Even Martinelli's coming into a little bit of form. Havertz, understated, but still performing, I think, fairly well. But look, Arsenal, you feel as though they're still having to prove things to people, and I think that's fair. Ultimately, you've got to prove that you can stand toe to toe with these two incredible teams. Liverpool have done it. They've got the manager. City, time and time again, favourites to win the Champions League again. Arsenal, the one for me that's most interesting, because right now they are playing a really nice brand of football. Watching them closely, scrutinising them closely, the football they play in control, but still looking threatening all of a sudden. It'll be interesting to see how Newcastle keep them at bay on Saturday night after a difficult away match in Portugal. Arsenal will be under pressure to keep the pressure up. Imagine if they do win fairly resoundingly at home to against a good team. Let's be very clear. Again, just will give them a huge amount of confidence. I genuinely think Arsenal can win the Premier League title simply because my eyes tell me they are playing a good brand of football. Having said that, they will have to keep winning, and they will, for my indication, have to avoid defeat at the Etihad when they play there. Many difficult games to navigate before and after, but there's something about ultimately going into the Lions' Den and showing them that you ultimately belong, right? And City have had their way with Arsenal at the Etihad and even at the Emirates until this season. I think there's just something psychologically that you need to kind of go there and say, look, we're here now,
Mm.
and we're a different team. So they need to keep winning, and then keep heading into that Etihad game and avoid defeat. But let's see. The time will tell, and they'll have to prove that to all of us, really.
It's really exciting, isn't it? It really is. I mean, it's the best show in town, and it's beautifully poised. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you reckon? Do you reckon Arsenal? You said they can. Obviously, they can win the league, but do you think they will win the league?
I'm gonna stick with Man City. I think they are the best team. They have the best striker, they have the best playmaker, they have the best coach, and that again might not mean much for for the sake of about 13, 14 games. I just think, given that all of the teams are thereabouts, you'd have to give the nod to City. The only thing I will say is that Liverpool's fixtures, knowing that they've got City at home, really should give them a great deal of confidence. They will fancy beating City at home, absolutely. I've just heard the news that Hoyland's ruled out for a number of weeks, which means that he'll be ruled out the Manchester derby when United play City. So that's just something that also was another game that I thought City would have some trouble, and Hoyland's in banging form, isn't he? So it's just something that just made me think that City have got some tough games with the whole, I guess, Anfield and Etihad against Arsenal, but I just think City will feel as though they can still hit their stride. And if Liverpool can navigate that fixture with a home win against Man City, they'll feel strong as well. So all three teams, I think, have cause to believe, and I think that's to your point, Ayub. That's what makes this title race incredible. And I always felt Arsenal last season, if you remember, we discussed it, I always felt Arsenal would be there or thereabouts this season. And the reason I felt strongly was this idea that ultimately many people felt that the other teams were going to improve, and that would be Arsenal's downfall. Well, again, Arsenal have maybe taken a little small step forward as well, especially with the acquisition of an absolute dominant midfielder in Declan Rice. Has had a good season, hasn't he? So, look, the point is, all three teams are well placed. It's the first time we've had three teams at this mark, probably. First time in a while, I should say. So it'll be fascinating. Can you imagine going into game weeks 35, 36, 37, 38 with perhaps only 2 or 3 points between them? That would be absolutely incredible, because no team will be out of it. And that's what makes for incredible viewing.
Absolutely exciting. Looking forward to it. Right. Okay. Weekend. We've got cup final, the Carabao Cup final between Liverpool, a slightly depleted Liverpool, against a inconsistent Chelsea, but they're in the final. They had a decent performance against City, and there's absolutely no reason why Chelsea won't be confident that they can turn Liverpool over.
From my perspective, I still feel it's going to be one-off games, right? One-off games. It's difficult. If Liverpool had their best team, and they are going to be missing some big players, aren't they? If my understanding is correct, Alisson, Arnold, Trent Alexander-Arnold, I should say, Curtis Jones, Szoboszlai, Salah late fitness. These are big players. Jota's going to be missing. It's really tough luck for Liverpool, to be honest with you, because I always feel you kind of fight your way through to a final. You want your best team available, don't you? Or close to the best team, because it's a one-off game, and you put all your eggs into the basket of lifting trophies. You don't just sign these games away. So it's disappointing for Liverpool that they'll be missing so many good players. It's quite unusual, actually, that they'll be missing these many players for such a crucial game. Chelsea, off the back of a draw that should give them some confidence at the Etihad. They just about dug in there at the end. It looked like they were going to lose it in the very last embers of the game, with chances being missed and blocks and last-ditch challenges. But I still, for whatever reason, fancy Liverpool. I'm not so sure why. I think Chelsea may well be the better team on the day, but I just think Liverpool, I don't know what it is. I just think somehow that coach, I think perhaps they'll find a way. It'd be huge for Chelsea, wouldn't it? Pochettino not having a trophy in what has been a difficult season. This would solidify him probably getting a second crack at it next season. I think it's a huge game. Much has been made of his legacy and not having won trophies. I'm not perhaps so tough on him in that respect. I judge kind of each opportunity on its merits, but he's got he's got a great opportunity to get that monkey off his back, and against a depleted Liverpool team. And that's the thing that'll give them huge hope. They are playing decent football. They played well in that first half. Thought Jackson played really well against Man City, especially the first half. Sterling as well. So look, let's see, huge game. Hoping to watch it myself. Let's see. But I just, for whatever reason, still fancy Liverpool just to edge it, not necessarily on performance, but perhaps just on the occasion with a little bit of luck and what have you. I'm just gonna give Liverpool the nod. What do you think?
I'm again. I want obviously a Liverpool victory, but I just sort of feel that Chelsea. I mean, this is the only thing really that Chelsea are playing for at this moment in time, because I think obviously the league's been inconsistent and Pochettino's been under pressure. So in a sense, as you said, this could be a tremendous fillip for Pochettino and Chelsea. It just gives breathing space. I think if they can win a pot, it just sort of calms everybody down, and I suppose it'll just means that people will lay off him for a little while. He can then focus on the project, which I presume that's what his job at Chelsea is. There's a project, so he'll be up for it. I think the players will be up for it. Because I'm sure. I mean, at the end of the day, they're well paid, but they're professionals, and they'll be hurting. I think some of the criticisms that have been levelled at Pochettino and Chelsea must affect them. I mean, they're a lot of the players who play for Chelsea obviously are sort of guys who must obviously have an ego, and their ego must have been bruised. So they know that this is important. And for Pochettino, it's extremely important because he's obviously not won a trophy in England. I'm pretty certain he's not won a trophy in England. Am I right in believing that? So for him, it's absolutely huge. And the result against Man City, albeit you're right. I mean, it could have been that sort of City won it in the end, but I think they did enough to give them the confidence, and they've played well in moments during the season. So the quality is there. It's just not consistent. And I think they'll be probably thinking, right, this is a Liverpool side that it's a good time to play them. There's injuries. Alisson is not playing, and it's huge. I think Alisson is quite a colossus at the back. Not seeing Alisson at the back, I think it must boost the opposition. With the defenders in front of Alisson, I think they have the confidence that they know they've got a star keeper behind them. So it has to have an impact. As a defender, if you know you've got a world-class keeper behind you, I think it makes your job easier. If you know that there's maybe an inexperienced keeper, it perhaps affect subconsciously the way that you play. So I think at the moment, I would certainly say that the odds are in Chelsea's favour, and I probably think they might just sneak a victory.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a huge opportunity for them, really, genuinely. I mean, can you imagine after the season that they've had, to end it with at least one trophy? I mean, yeah, look, incredible. It should be a good game. I mean, Liverpool, Chelsea have competed in many a domestic final, and I think in many a big Champions League games as well. When you think about kind of Benitez and Mourinho and what have you, and other big heavyweights going at it. But look, yeah, it should be a fascinating game. Again, a shame for Liverpool, because I just think you fight so much just to get to the big dance, as they say, and then to have your main stars missing. I really think that's a crying shame in some ways, because I think, especially also from a spectacle perspective, Ayub. I mean, this is ultimately entertainment. It's a big affair in terms of Wembley, packed house. You don't want one team to be so depleted where you're going into it thinking that's literally kind of tilted the favour in terms of into one direction. You want your best team from a spectacle perspective. You want your best superstars playing in the biggest game. So huge opportunity for Chelsea, and again for Pochettino, because it may well be the case that we look at you in a couple of years' time and think, look at Chelsea now in terms of challenging for the title, Pochettino leading the way up against the big guns, whoever that might be, whether Pep's still in the league, Arteta, maybe, who knows, maybe Xabi Alonso, although there's some rumours that Bayern Munich might be in that race now. So look, who knows? And it could be that in a couple of years, a lot of Chelsea fans look back on this cup as the kind of springboard for what was to come. Now, again, I think that's a stretch, because with Chelsea, you never look that far ahead. But I just think it's a huge, huge opportunity for him, really, honestly. In terms of him feeling as though, I belong, I can win trophies. This is the club that can still do it. I mean, Chelsea are still an incredibly talented outfit. They're a little bit kind of there's a little bit of cohesion missing because of such in terms of the overhaul of players and personnel. But I just think a huge game again. A shame for me that Liverpool are missing so many critical players. I really don't think it should be the case that a final should be played under these circumstances. It's just sheer bad luck. Liverpool will still see it as a small sacrifice if they can get some of those players back for this kind of title run-in. I think they would be more than happy to sacrifice the Carabao Cup if it meant getting all their superstars back, fit, healthy, strong for this final run-in, because it would be the perfect way to send the big man off riding into the sunset.
Yeah, I mean that's the awkward one. I think what I've just been reading is that potentially Salah and Nunes will be available, but again, it's do you just focus on them, because the problem always is rushing people back. And what you don't want to do. I mean, it's a trophy, so you can't take the game lightly, but there's obviously a larger picture there as well. But just going back onto Pochettino, this will be huge for him, because I think if he does win, the confidence that gives him, because I think at the moment, I mean, obviously, if he doesn't get the win, he's still then apprehensive. If he gets the win, the confidence that will give the coach, it just means that his decision making will be probably much more assured. And that's sometimes the issue, isn't it? Really, when you're not confident, you start questioning, you start doubting, because obviously there's a lot of questions and criticisms. I think he needs this. Personally, I think he needs this enormously. For Liverpool, I think Klopp must decide, right, what's important? Is it the league, or is it just I want to win the cup and then concentrate on the league? Because I think what you don't want to do is rush players in, because at the end of the day, I suppose if Salah is, you think fit, if you think Nunes is fit, are they really, really fit? Or are they just maybe fit enough for perhaps 20 minutes, 30 minutes? But again, do you want to risk them for 20, 30 minutes if it may mean that something might go wrong and it might impact for 2 or 3 games? So it's a tricky one. I hope they play. I hope they play, because you're right. It's a showpiece event, and you want the bigger stars playing. So my heart sort of wants Liverpool. My head tells me that maybe Chelsea will just sneak it, but I hope it's a good game. Ultimately, it's about being a good spectacle. So let's sort of see what happens. And on that note, I think that covers the topics that we wanted to discuss. So is there anything else that you want to discuss, or shall we call it a line?
Just wanted to get a prediction from you for tonight's game.
Oh, and I'm not going to say anything. I can't.
Go on.
Honestly, I can't. I'll be happy with the draw. I'll be happy with it. Well, no. I'll settle for a draw. I just don't want us to lose. I mean, it's not ideal. I think what I would want is certainly the players to be a lot more optimistic and buoyant than me. I'm quite nervous, and really, this is, to me, it's a defining moment, as I said, because it almost reminds me of the Arsenal versus Liverpool game. Arsenal were absolutely up for it. They were chomping at the bit, and that was a team that wanted to win the league. And really, that's what I want Leeds to be like today. That they're not intimidated by Leicester, and they're absolutely up for it in a sense. There's an appetite for games like this and the pressures like this, because this is where really you sort of work out who the big men are. What you don't want is players sort of crumbling under the pressure. So I'm feeling under pressure. So really, it's a good job I'm not playing for him, because I'd be far too nervous. But I'm just hoping that we're at it, and if we just don't want to lose. I don't want to lose. I think it's one of these where if you ask me now, what would you be satisfied with? I'd be more than happy with the draw. So I'm going to go for the draw.
Yeah, well, I don't think they should be worried in any way, shape, or form. They've already navigated going away from home to the best team in the league and winning. So, I mean, look, they'll take a great deal of confidence, won't they, Ayub? And they are in scintillating form in front of the fans on a Friday night, which, I think there's always a little bit better atmosphere, isn't there, Ayub?
I mean, an evening fixture as always. I mean, it's not ideal. The only good thing is we're playing at home. It's one of these fixtures where if you're playing Friday night, you don't want to be playing away from home. So obviously the team, they've slept in their own beds. I hope they've slept in their own beds.
Well, it is Friday night after all.
Yeah. So I hope So in terms of, I mean, we've had quite a few long trips. We've had away games to Bristol City, Plymouth. So there's been a lot of travel. This is at least it's given them an opportunity of 6 days where they've been based in Leeds. They've had a good night's kip. And it always, I mean, I look at little details like this where when you're playing a big game, if it's home, it means at least you've got the creature comforts. It's an evening fixture. It's in front of a packed Ellen Road. I just hope that they 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 perform to the levels that they have been over the last 8 weeks, over the last 8 games. So, nervous. So, on that note, I think I'm too nervous now. We need to call it a day because my legs have gone.
Your legs.
All right. So, as always, audience, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll drop this video in about a couple of hours. So hopefully it's Friday evening when you're watching this. If it's a late one, if it's after the Leeds performance, you'll know exactly how I'm feeling. All right. So thanks as always. Always, it's an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
Likewise,
and it will be
always.
great because there's a number of people who have been asking, and I've sort of said to them, if you want to know how Ois is, watch the podcast. So hopefully that boosts the viewing figures up by about 3 or 4.
Fantastic.
All right. Okay. So viewers, until the next time, stay safe. Have a great weekend. Take care. Bye bye.